I'm a perfectionist. You are looking at yourself and feeling like a failure. It came with a lot of effort, but not, frankly, a lot of happiness.
God doesn't get to you through your strength. He gets to you through like your largest insecurity and your weakness in that moment. It was kind of an idol. All the things that we aim at.
During that point in my life would have come up to me and said, let me tell you about Jesus and who he is. I would have said, I have no use for that. I'm my own God. Like, I don't need...
Welcome to First and Focused, the podcast where faith meets leadership. I know you're going to put me on the spot. I don't know what you're going to ask me to say. I'm Mark Greaves, and in each episode, I sit down with business and industry leaders who put God first in their work and stay focused on building his kingdom through their calling. I could sit here and talk with you all day.
Keep up the great work, brother. Lord is using you powerfully. I love you. I love watching what Jesus is doing in your life.
Welcome, everyone, to the First and Focused show, where we interview leaders from various industries who put God first and prioritize Jesus in their calling and what they do for a living every single day. I'm your host, Mark Greaves, and today we are joined by Mr. Matt Wooster.
Hi.
Wooster, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
So,
it's an honor to be here.
A couple years ago when we met, you didn't realize I was really playing the long game here. I was like, hey, I got to figure out a way that a couple years from now I can interview this guy on First and Focused.
You got me.
Yeah. So our friendship and all the time we spent together, it's leading up to this very moment.
Yes.
Here
we are.
That's really what I was in for.
Amazing.
But seriously, thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course.
You've been a light in my life, and I mean, this last couple of years, getting to know your heart for the Lord and all the things that you've done through your work and the influence that you've brought to not only me but a bunch of other people that we know together. So
well, the feeling is more than mutual. So thanks.
All right, you're going to do most of the talking. So I'm going to do an intro. Everybody gets an intro, and yours is very impressive, but you're humble, so you probably would never say any of this stuff on your own. So I'm just going to say it all for you. All right, here we go. Matt Wooster. You are currently the Managing Director for Insurance Solutions at HPS Investment Partners, which was recently acquired by BlackRock. Your career in finance began at Ernst & Young 23 years ago, and you have experience spanning from banking to insurance to private equity. You're an avid competitor in all things. You've kicked my butt at a few of those things, especially sports. You started for the Ohio State University tennis team while graduating summa cum laude from the Fisher College of Business. Recently, you've become more involved in the city of Worthington, Ohio, where you live, working on multiple projects revitalizing the downtown area, and you've partnered with me directly in growing the Tithe Foundation, which is a network of businesses and entrepreneurs dedicated to honoring God with their work and loving their neighbors with generosity through our quarterly grant distributions. I know this is the stuff that's most important to you. You're a husband to Angie, a dad to Jack and Gwen, and most importantly, a lover and follower of Jesus Christ.
You got it all. Amen.
Is there anything I missed?
I don't think so.
Scoured the archives for that.
You did. Not hard to find it, but yeah, that's all true.
All right. Well, honestly, I have some notes here. We'll probably go off script, but I mean, question one is like your story's pretty nuts. I want to get into a couple of different areas of it, but I mean, the premise of this show is people who are faithful people in Jesus who are working in the world and we're doing real tangible things, but how do we let our faith lead and how do we integrate ourselves fully into the things that we're doing? So give me back to, I don't want to start all the way to like the day you were born. Mm-hmm. Give me back to Ohio State. So give me an idea of, where you're at as a young man. What do you think you wanted to do? What was your relationship like with the Lord? Just take us back to those college years.
Yeah. I think first off, on one of your questions inside there, my relationship with the Lord was nowhere. I was not a believer in any sense of the word. We were a family that went to church growing up, but if the gospel message was in there, I certainly wasn't picking up on it. And in fact, I'm not actually sure it was in there very much. I have a wonderful relationship with my parents, and I don't blame them for anything. My dad's now a follower of Jesus as well, but I was definitely raised to be an achiever. My parents prioritized performance and as a marker of success in terms of like getting great grades. Both my parents were public school teachers. My dad was my K-4 gym teacher, and he's an athlete himself. And so sports was always something that was prioritized. And so for all those reasons, like I think my parents, again, I'm not blaming them for anything. Like they did the very best they could, but they really unbeknownst to them, sort of prioritized achievements as a measure of success. And frankly, I just wanted to appease them. I wanted to make them happy. And I think I did as a result of that. All those things you went through are true. I got great grades. I was good at sports. Once I started my career, it was all about like, let's advance as far and fast and make as much money as I could. But yeah, those, I know we're maybe going to get into, my story a little bit more, especially more my testimony, but like, it was really, the biography is all true, but it's all the background behind all of it is that it came with a lot of effort, but not frankly a lot of happiness. Like I was just driven to succeed in whatever measure of success it was, grades or sports or making money. And I was successful, but I certainly was not fulfilling in any sense of the word.
Dang, man. Yeah. I mean, just being around you, I mean, obviously your intellect and your ability to get things done is off the charts. And then your competitiveness and like wanting to do that better than other people is also off the charts. So, I mean, I could see how success would come easy, but the fulfillment wasn't there. I mean, how did you even get to the point where you do what you do right now? Because you've explained it to me and it's difficult. You're working in finance and it's not easy. So how did the career progress from, you graduate Ohio State, now you're doing what you do for HPS. I mean, just take us through that employment journey.
Yeah, I think just strictly on the employment vocational kind of side, I was at Ohio State. And my dad, despite being a gym teacher, was always interested in the financial markets, and he started a Roth IRA, if you know what that is, like way back before anybody my age had a Roth IRA. He opened up one for me as a kid. And I specifically remember looking at like going through paper prospectuses on like mutual funds that we were going to put in 10. Maybe?
I think I was reading like the funny papers.
You're having more fun.
Mutual fund prospectuses.
Yeah, exactly. But like, there's something about that I just actually really enjoyed. Maybe it was just doing it with my dad, to be honest. But like, I look back at those times like with a degree of kind of fondness. And so from that from that time forward, I kind of just always got involved in interest in the financial markets. I would like, look at the newspaper and look at stock tickers for companies that were based in Ohio and just kind of slowly follow them. And so when I went to Ohio State, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to major in with like precision, but I did feel pretty strongly it was going to be in the world of business. And I had a professor at Ohio State that gave me the advice, which I actually think was great advice. And I would give it to anybody that's kind of in the business world, but doesn't know exactly what they want to do. He encouraged me to major in accounting, because he's like, look, if you major in accounting and you understand how financial statements work and you can interpret them, you can analyze a business a lot through just understanding their financial statements. That's like a good base and a background for doing a variety of things inside of the world of business. Whereas, no offense to like marketing majors, it's like if you're a marketing major, you probably are in like a certain kind of a path, where the accounting major gives you a little bit more flexibility. So that's what I did. So I then started my work career in Chicago, working for Ernst & Young. It's a very large global accounting firm. Pretty much immediately, I realized I didn't want to be an accountant. When you work in the larger offices, you actually specialize in a certain industry type, and mine was financial services, because I knew I wanted to be more involved in kind of the markets in general, although I didn't totally know exactly what that meant. So I pretty quickly left E&Y and then worked for a hedge fund in an entry-level kind of role, and really started my kind of finance path, went through the CFA process there, had another role that I really loved in Chicago, working for a CLO manager, which only super finance nerds would even know what that is. But I learned credit and investing back in a very interesting time, 2005 to 2010. And then I don't want to step on my testimony in case we kind of get there, but really I had a massive health scare, brain cancer, hit me. And my wife, Angie, and I were like, all right, we didn't yet have a family, but we knew we wanted to start one. And doctors encouraged us to get going sooner rather than later, because we weren't exactly sure about the prognosis. And so then that's when we moved from Chicago to Columbus. And then I started my first role, which I've had now 4 straight roles that I've absolutely loved, and I feel like they've served a very specific purpose in my career. I started, the first one was the last one in Chicago and the CLO, the kind of credit investment business. And then I started as a commercial banker here covering, private equity firms, high net worth family offices, financial services kind of industry, and working with CEOs, CFOs, and businesses to really provide them loan or the financings they need to continue to own and operate their businesses. And it was a relational role too. And I've always been competitive and really fell in love with the sales process there at Huntington. And then I had an opportunity to move over to a brand new asset class inside Nationwide Insurance, and it was the private debt asset class when we were investing in private equity style vehicles, but more in the debt kind of context. And so working for a very large established company, but in a brand new kind of business unit inside there was a interesting opportunity to go over there when it was still early days. So I did that and loved that for a variety of different reasons. And I was there for 5 years. And then one of the firms that we were very actively investing with was HPS, and that's who I now work with. And so I kind of flip sides of the table where I was a buyer of HPS's products. Now I'm like selling them to fellow insurance companies. So my role at HPS is to work with our insurance company clients and put together structured solutions that work well for them. And then I'm also involved in the sales process. So talking to insurance companies, including my former employer Nationwide, about why the mousetrap that we built works well for them and from a regulatory standpoint and et cetera. So, we've got over 100 insurance company clients just in the U.S., and so I get to spend a lot of time with them, and so it's a lot of fun. It's great.
So I just wrote down some. I know a little bit of like the stories that come next, but I want to come back to something here in a second. But you mentioned already you weren't always a believer.
Yeah,
and then obviously you're running and gunning after college. Career's growing and expanding, your exposure's expanding, your knowledge base is expanding, you're going hard at it, and then there's a shift.
Yeah.
Like I just kind of want to get into that a little bit because some of what you do now and some of what you're going to talk about here later would never have been able to happen unless all of a sudden the Lord entered your life in the way that he did. I mean, just take us through that. Like how did God get your attention?
Yeah.
What was the progression? Like how did you come to Christ?
Yeah. So, I hit on it a little bit earlier, but the life before Christ, I'll just put it all under that label, was not fulfilling. And frankly, it was becoming less and less fulfilling as time went on. Like it's easy to have, I'm a perfectionist and I think there's some good qualities in that. There's also some pretty negative ones too. I think like if you're not succeeding in literally everything you do, then you're just a disappointment. Like I'm disappointing myself if I don't succeed. Like if I do whatever the idea of success is, if I achieve that, it's like, okay, that's the baseline. That's what I'm supposed to do. And if I fall short of that, which we often do, then it's just like you are looking at yourself and feeling like a failure. Yeah. And so kind of living with that mindset, frankly, for decades was leading to more and more, just being more disenfranchised to what life was about. And I was chasing it with, there was a point in my life where I was very into playing online poker or going to the bars way more than I should and just making kind of decisions that were not healthy at all and were actually exacerbating the problem. I was also extremely, and I still struggle with a lot of this, by the way. I don't want to suggest that I'm some perfect human, but like really was a selfish, self-focused person. While I had a large network and people that I knew, I would have called them friends. I was no actual friend to any of them. I didn't care about anybody but myself. I was just using them to advance whatever cause I thought was important to me, Matt Wooster. And so, if somebody during that point in my life would have come up to me and said, let me tell you about Jesus and who he is, I would have said, like, I have no use for that. Like, I wouldn't have said it this exact way, but like, I'm my own God. Like, I don't need a savior. Like, everything is fine. Look at my resume. Like, I'm all good, right? And so I had a lot of arrogance, I think, in how I was living. And so I truly believe that the only way that I would have listened to what Jesus had to say is through a potential death event like brain cancer. He had to literally hit me over the head with brain cancer and
have all the way up to the edge.
And have doctors at the Mayo Clinic really talk to me about like what a realistic life is going to be moving forward, and the fact that Angie and I should start a family and have kids. And so I don't know if I would have listened for anything short of that. And in fact, I'll try to be somewhat brief. I really didn't even listen. I remember the night before my first surgery, my brain surgery in 2010 at the Mayo Clinic, I said I probably would call it a prayer, but it wasn't. It was really more of a bargain, where I'm like, God, I have no idea if you exist, but if you get me through tomorrow, this is the night before my surgery, if you get me through tomorrow, I said some version of, I'll dedicate my life to you. Next day, well, that night, I will never forget this night, but like that night, I was woken up in a way that I'd never been woken up before, and really haven't even since, but in a like, just, it wasn't like a groggy wake up, it was like a immediate feeling of peace, contentment. I remember physically not even wanting to move because it was just such a comfort in what I was feeling. And I can definitely say that today that was God, but I had a sense and feeling that everything is going to be okay. All right. So then I go into the surgery the following day. It's a successful surgery in the sense it's a full resection of the tumor. And then, you know, I talked a little bit about, then we made a decision, my wife and I made a decision to move back to Ohio, start a family, given what some of the doctors were going to say. But Mark, I went right back into my same way of living. I didn't forget that bargain, that prayer bargain that I said. I didn't forget the moment of peace that I felt. But I just sort of checked the boxes like, I don't know what that was about. That's that whole brain cancer stuff, but we're moving forward. And I just went to an Ohio-based version of exactly the same way I was living. And it wasn't until 2013 when the cancer came back, which doctors expected it to, and the malignancy of the tumor had increased. And then the follow after I had a surgery again, but then chemo, radiation, where it was like, okay, like it's even worse now. The end is kind of coming. And so then that's when I finally, relented and somebody begged me effectively to go to a church service. And I went to it. I heard the gospel clearly for the first time. And it was the person that was teaching talked about their daughter's best friend who lived in Chicago and had a brain tumor, and the peace of God that the daughter was able to provide to this patient. And it was like, I felt like I was the only person in this room of 1,000 people. And like, from then on, I was like, I didn't become a believer that day, but I'm like, if truly all we have to do, we don't have to work our way into a relationship for God. It's a free gift, as Ephesians 2 talks about. Like, if that's true, I want that. But I was a little too analytical to go ahead and make that decision that day. So for me, Mark, it was a 6-month process of being in the Word, going to our church service, going to our home group service, a fellowship with the other guys and ladies in our home group that loved us, that resulted in ultimately me making the decision for Christ in the spring of 2014. And it's the best decision I've ever made. I can definitively say, sorry for the long answer, I can definitively say that, but the cancer is the best thing that ever happened to me, because there's no way I would ever had a relationship with God without it.
This isn't on our notes, but I just know this piece of the story. Who was it that invited you to church that you ended up saying yes to? Because there's a point I want to make that I think is really interesting in your story, for anybody who potentially is listening to this. So just tell me who it was, and then
Well, yeah. So the person that specifically invited me. So when I went through my chemo and radiation, I lost my hair.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this time I'm at Huntington. I'm wearing a suit and tie every day. I care a lot about my image and what I look like, and like, it was frankly embarrassing for me to kind of go into work. It's like, when am I supposed to wear a hat when I have a suit and tie, or am I going to have this awkward bald head with a big scar in it? So I really did not like the aesthetic part of my life then. And finally, in the fall of 2013, my hair started to grow back, and Angie, my wife, was like, I was like, I think I'm ready for a haircut. And she's like, this girl that cuts my hair, she's so sweet. I think she'll see you after hours, after the shop is closed. And Mark, this is like somebody that I would never normally, and I don't mean this. Hopefully this doesn't come across the wrong way. This is somebody I would never normally kind of hang out with. She, tattoos and nose rings and stuff. It's like that's
she's
that's
an
fine.
artist. She's a stylist.
She's an artist. She's
Yeah.
a stylist. I'm not, right? I'm
You're-
just a
you're a
nerdy
big
finance guy,
banking
right?
guy, yeah.
But like, thank God for her, because like for some reason, I felt compelled to share my story about that night before my first surgery, where I said my bargain prayer, and then she turned around and like effectively begged me to come to her church, and reluctantly I agreed. We agreed. Angie and I went, and then that's when I heard the message of the gospel the first time.
It's just such a
So
beautiful piece of your story. I wanted to point out, just because I feel like you hear this and over, this theme. But obviously, when it comes to finance and money and numbers and everything that you were doing for a living, that's like a major strength of yours.
Yeah.
And then God doesn't get to you through your strength; He gets to you through like your largest insecurity and your weakness in that moment. Your image was important to you.
Yeah.
You're there, and you're like, hey, this is something that you're not feeling great about. That's how God entered your life and convinced you at that moment to give Him a shot. And then now He's using your strengths to build His kingdom. So the strengths are there. The gifts are important. And He's using you through them now, but He couldn't get to you through that side.
That's such a great
He
point.
didn't get to you through the weakness.
That's right on.
Which is kind of crazy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's a beautiful part of your story. I just had to point it out. Before we get into some of the other pieces, you still work with numbers every day.
Yeah.
You're still in the world of money every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to coming to Christ, you even mentioned a couple of times, it was kind of an idol, the success and the perfectionism and the growth, like all the things that we aim at in the money side of things, is it can become an idol. How do you keep it from becoming an idol now? So now that you know Christ, but you still work in the world that you're in, how is it different today?
Well, first off, it's a great question. God designed us all differently, obviously. The way that God created me is the same as the giftings that He gave me are the same when I was immediately born. So my natural tendencies, the way that God designed me, in my thinking that I go to on a humanistic and in my sinful nature way, are not different than they were when I was 25. And so it's very easy for me, without regularly spending time in the Word, being in fellowship with fellow believers, being open, being vulnerable with our thoughts, to go right back into that same thinking. So the pull of money, success, are still there, and they have the potential to be an idol for me. And I just really have to be quite grounded, quite disciplined, being around the right type of people, and talking and being open and vulnerable about how my mind is going, because it's very easy for me to just go right back into that same type of thinking. But it's very easy for me to quickly correct course and say, nope, that's not right. I understand what the Bible says. I know what God thinks about me. He doesn't view me. As a child of Christ, He doesn't view me more favorably if I have a certain title, if I make a certain amount of money. He loves us no matter how we perform. So this performance-based, and I just kind of put all of that under the label of performance, doesn't have any influence on how God views us. He loves us completely no matter what we do. And I need to tell myself that truth, like multiple times on a daily basis. Like it's something that I have to watch for, those selfish tendencies, this bend to performance. Like I really have to be careful with that as a parent too, because like the way that I was raised is how if I'm not careful, we raise our kids. Like, I'm like, how, you didn't get an A in that test today? I don't know, buddy.
You got two talented kids, so that makes it a little bit easier on you, which is good.
And we can talk about that later.
Well, let's switch gears into that, because I think that's one of the cool things is, if I'm not mistaken, I think you're the only person within your office or your firm that's working in Columbus, right?
Yeah,
almost everybody's in like a major financial center.
Yeah,
like mostly New York, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So you've chosen to stay here and raise your family here.
Yeah.
Which I think is rare. It's unique, and I know how being a husband and a father is a priority. I think that's probably top of the list behind follower of Jesus. I've come to know you on that. So
That's true.
just give me an example of like, how do you run your family? How is that something that you've incorporated Christ into just kind of your family dynamics and raising kids? And why do you prioritize things the way you do?
Yeah. Well, first off, like, I think in the past I would have used the word lucky, like as you talk about career and like how I'm in, the setting that I'm in now, like I would have said, boy, I was lucky. Like I joined during COVID. A lot of people negatively inferenced during COVID, but I joined at a time where my firm, where the offices were closed. And so maybe that's a little bit of the why I was able to kind of start in Ohio.
Yeah.
But I honestly think like God had, I would phrase it differently. God is just a plan for all of us. And that was just sort of part of his plan. And so, my priorities are God, number one, and then, kind of family, like Angie is my wife and our kids, like really making sure that I'm present with them as often as I can be. And then career, but I don't want to minimize career. I love my career and I think I do a really good job. I work hard at it. I really enjoy it. But, making sure that those priorities are in alignment at all times are extremely important to us. Like what I've told my employer is that I'm happy to be wherever I need to be at any time, as long as kind of my home base is Ohio, so that I can be there for all the events that I can be. There are things that I miss, but I'm okay with that because the majority of them I'm there. As it relates to, our kids, like we've got a wonderful church community, especially as it relates to kind of youth ministry. So a constant prayer that Angie and I say, and I would suggest this is something that all kind of parents should consider. It's like, I think that it's pretty easy as parents for us to be like, we're going to be in control of everything that our parents do, almost like this helicopter type of mentality. But the reality is we're not. And I think that can be suffocating in a lot of ways. If parents try to control every aspect of our kids' lives, they're going to spend a lot of time around other people that aren't us. And so a constant prayer for us is that the people that are surrounding them that aren't us are going to be, building into them in ways that are healthy for their development, both from people that are believers and people that are not believers. Our kids both go to public schools. That's an intentional decision that we've made because of this. We need to live in the world. So we raise them with a Christian and a biblical mindset, but be able to be equipped to operate in the world at large. And so that having said everything I just said, our church has wonderful youth group ministries where they're meeting for not short amount of times and oftentimes multiple times a week, where they're getting grounded in the word, they're being discipled, they're spending time with fellow believers. And we're also supplementing, obviously, a lot of that at home. So that's, we're far from perfect parents, but that's a little bit of kind of the strategies that we've taken.
Yeah.
And, there's like our son is inviting one of his buddies who's not a believer out to his group. Like, to me, that's evidence that we're doing something that's working there. They're both, I feel, they're both saved, and I know where they're going. Where they, if they were to get hit by a bus today, thank God, hopefully they don't.
Do you ever think about how much time you have left with them?
All the
house. It's not that much longer.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I mean, it actually makes me really sad.
I know.
I read a stat. For those that don't know, our kids are 14 and 12. I read a stat and it seems completely, makes all the sense in the world to me, but it's like 90% of the time you're going to spend with your kids is when they're 18 and under. And our kids are, roundly 2/3 of the way out of our house. And it's like, oh my gosh, like those younger years were like hard. It's like, this is tough. Like they
feel like they last forever.
Yeah, you feel like it lasts forever, and it's difficult. And then, if I'm going to be honest, sometimes it's like I can't kind of wait till they get out of here so we can get more like free time. Now, as they're getting older, like we continue to have a fun with them, a good time, and it's like, oh my gosh, they're going to like be gone soon. Like what? Like what are we going to do?
It evaporates quick.
It evaporates quick.
Yeah, so like I see my parents 3 times a year. I mean, we don't live in the same city, so it's like it's kind of a weird number when you start putting it on that, because it's like, oh, let's say my parents live for 20 more years and I see them 3 times. It's only like 60 more times I'm going to see you face to face. So it's kind of like these brutal realities. Yeah. So like cherishing the moment when it's in front of you.
We're trying to like, we obviously haven't executed on it, but it's on this like strategy board, is like almost having like a sacred week every year that like, our kids will, I don't know what's going to happen, but, presumably they might get married, they might start families, they're going to have their own, families to kind of raise and deal with. But it's like, let's be thoughtful and strategical about it. It's like a Wooster week or something that's not conflicting with spring break.
That actually
or
sounds pretty cool.
Something like that. It's like, here's what we're going to do. No matter, like it's not going to be if
Have
we
you
don't want
done
to be
that yet,
legalist.
or is that
No,
coming?
but it's kind of like Angie and I are talking about that a little bit. And so
I like the
someone's
Wooster
like
week,
where
yeah.
we're, it's like we all love to ski. So maybe we go out and we get a place out west and we ski for a week. I don't know. But like,
That's awesome.
just to try to like continue to invest in them. And part of that isn't just, some of that can sound selfish, like, oh, we need time with our kids. No, I really think it's like we want to just be a part of their families for the rest of our lives and help be grandparents someday, or who knows what's going to happen. But
well, they're the only two people on earth that God gave you specifically to, be responsible for and raise and have an influence on.
Yeah.
So I think you're doing the right thing, man. Well, I mean, that's wow, I just realized a couple of things during that conversation. So kind of reframe my thoughts a little bit about spending time with family. That was good.
Good.
All right, I can't not talk about Tithe Foundation because it's just been
I don't know what took so long.
what we've bounded over. Well, because your story is like, it's so much fun to hear. So I would love to hear from your perspective. Tell everybody what Tithe Foundation is and kind of what you're doing for Tithe Foundation, but also
Is this
then
a test?
it might be a little bit of a test, but you've done a lot of the behind the scenes and you've seen and heard a lot of stories. So I'm just curious, like what are some of the things that have touched your heart? Because there's a lot of business leaders out there who want to have impact and they want to have influence and do something that's bigger than just dollars and cents and performing whatever the function is or the product is that they make. So we've been able to do that the last couple of years and it's been awesome.
Yep.
So, I mean, first, just like, why don't you tell everybody what it is that we're doing and some of the ways that you've influenced it and then some of the stories that have touched your heart.
Yeah, with Tithe Foundation, we help business leaders, business people put God first, simply, in everything they do. And so, there's not some bright line where we divide and conquer, but you're a, business leader to the nth degree, CEO and run very large organizations. You spend a lot of your time kind of working, on the basic blocking and tackling as how to operate a business, putting God first in everything they kind of do. Where I really kind of help out is more on the kind of the financial side. And like, I strongly don't want to give the impression that the Tithe Foundation is just some conduit for giving, because it's so much more than that. What I specifically do for the Tithe Foundation is focused on taking. Well, I'm going to take a little bit of a step back. I'm going to tackle this from a kind of a different route. So, this has been a little bit of a personal journey for me, and so I don't know if this is helpful or useful for people in general. But I shared some of my story. I became a believer in spring of 2014, and I'll just kind of put it all under the category of like feeling comfort, satisfaction, knowledge that I was saved. I know exactly where I'm going to go at the end of this life, and that was wonderful. But I also felt some sort of lack of understanding about what does God want me to do now that I'm a believer. Ephesians 2:8-9 says that we're saved by grace through faith. It's a gift. It's not based on works, very importantly. But if you read Ephesians 2:10, it's like we've all been created in advance, very specifically with a certain set of giftings for a certain he has good things in mind for us to do. So what is effectively what is my Ephesians 2:10 purpose? That's a question that as I started to become a little bit more mature as a walking Christian throughout kind of the 2014 to 2020, that started to really creep up a little bit more in my brain and in my mind. And it was through really that process you went through, a similar one yourself, I know, but like it was really through that process, and specifically, Chip Ingram and Prime Movers and Sam Kuhn is the local coordinator here, where I was able to, an awesome program, by the way, if anybody wants to go through that, but like where I was really able to dig into what is my background? How did God create me? How did he gift me? What am I interested in? And where I was able to realize, okay, God gave me these really nerdy financial analytical skills. How can I use them to advance God's kingdom? Okay. And so it was through that I was introduced to you at Panera Bread 2-ish years ago.
I found my nerd. That's my nerd right there. I got him.
I'm your nerd. But at the Tithe Foundation, going back to there, we work with these business partners and with these business owners, business leaders. We call them business partners as part of the Tithe Foundation. And I fundamentally believe that Christians understand, it's very biblical. It's not hard to see that it is good to give. Like, we are called to be generous and we are supposed to give. A lot of Christians believe and understand that, but especially I would suggest business people think with a mindset of like investors. It's like, okay, I understand that, but what am I supposed to be giving to? Like, will these organizations that I'm giving to be good steward of my money? And calling it my money, it's God's money, right? But calling it, will they be good stewards of the money? Who are these people? What are they seeking to accomplish? Will I ever hear from them again? I don't know. And understanding where your money is going, what kind of impact it makes, I think is super important. So that's the role that I try to play, Mark, at Tithe Foundation. You know that, but we now, fast forward today, round numbers, have how many business partners? 40, 35?
Just over 40.
Yeah. We have 40 business partners. So that's defined as people that have agreed to be tithing in general as a Christian, and a portion, and we certainly don't mandate that all of their dollars go to the Tithe Foundation, where they're giving some of their business income or some of their giving is coming into the Tithe Foundation. And then that's where I turn around and do financial due diligence on kingdom-focused, spiritually focused, not-for-profits operating in Central Ohio. What are these organizations? What are they trying to accomplish? Who are they? Do they have financial statements? Are they going to be good stewards of money? Tell us some stories. What can we fund? And then there's a lens that we look at all these organizations. There's a lot of organizations doing a lot of great work for the kingdom, but there's just a certain set of characteristics. We're not going to go into it now that we look to support at the Tithe Foundation, but then we end up supporting them financially through this grant night process, and then they actually get our funds, and we maintain a relationship with them. But again, I feel like I'm talking too long, but what I felt like, Mark, is that I'm like, okay, I can do spiritually focused due diligence and to maximize in kingdom impact for God. That's great. That makes all the sense in the world. That could be my Ephesians 2:10 purpose, which it is, but it's only actually a fragment. Now that we're actually going out and doing it, I get to meet these people on their turf to see exactly what they're doing, watch them carry their cross on a daily basis in super difficult situations. Frankly, if I'm going to be honest, situations that I would feel uncomfortable with. It's amazing to see these people working out in the community, truly serving God on a day-to-day basis. That's been such a privilege and so faith-affirming for me, and something that I frankly didn't even expect.
Yeah, I mean, some of the places that we've gone and the things that we've seen, I mean, you wouldn't expect a guy that works for BlackRock, to be in that spot, viewing and observing that. But you can't really feel it any other way. To see it with your own eyes and to see the people who are being served and let your heart actually understand the mission. These folks are trying to achieve. That's a critical component of it. Because like you said, a lot of it's dollars and cents and looking at budgets and finances. But then it's like, well, wait a minute. That dollar is going to make its way into somebody's life in some sort of a specific way that they're trying to reach that person.
Yes.
What is that way? Who is that person? What are they going through that created that need? And just keeping that trail, that's what opens your heart up and lets God
100%.
Do his work.
Yes.
If we stay on the one side of the ledger, it's not going to really, it doesn't all map over that way.
That's right. God doesn't need our money. He wants our hearts. And this is the conduit to get our hearts. And I think the hearts of the business partners as well. But the actual money then is also used to help these communities and people that desperately need it.
Yeah. No,
so it feels like a win-win all over the place.
It's funny because the money is not the mission, but it does kind of come in handy.
Yeah.
You kind of need it
to
go do some stuff around here.
Yep.
Man, I love it. Well, you've been a blessing to the foundation, and I also know that you've been a gateway for other business folks to come into Tithe Foundation.
Yeah.
Because you're pretty humble. You're not going to brag about yourself. You're not out there on social media talking much about what you do.
You do it for me.
I do. I love bragging about you. But no, I think that people know who you are and they know what you do. So when they see you participating in things like this for the kingdom, it's inspiring, and it also gives them a pass of like, if Matt can do it and if others can do it, it gives me the courage that I need to take my step forward and do it in whatever space and industry I'm in, which is
praise God.
Nice segue into this. I mean, what would you say to, the business leader who you don't have to go all the way back to, pre-belief in Christ. What do you say to the business leader who believes in Jesus and potentially wants to integrate his faith and his work and just become a fully integrated self, but maybe is a little scared reputation-wise? They're nervous. They're a little bit embarrassed. They don't know what people are going to think. How do I do that? Do I have to like get a microphone and preach while I'm at work? Like, what would you say to that person to encourage them?
I would suggest that anybody, totally relatable questions, by the way, I think to many, many people, including myself at times. But I think like if you're having those types of thoughts and you're asking those types of questions, it's because you feel some discomfort. It's almost as if to phrase it in a way that's not exactly right, but it's directionally right. It's almost like you're living two lives. You've got this life that is dedicated to Christ. You're all in on Christ, but yet you also love your business and you care about your business. Rightly so. You should. That's okay. That's biblical. But if you're not integrating, to use the word that you did, there's something missing there. You're not actually being the truest sense of yourself.
Yeah.
Like you are an heir of God. You are a son of God. But if you're not a son of God 24/7, 365, there's something missing, and it's probably involving some lack of fulfillment. So I would say we are beloved no matter what we do by God. We don't need to perform. So I would just kind of question, what's holding you back? What are you scared of? You're fearful of something, but I would suggest there's nothing to be fearful for. God has our back no matter what we do.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very clear, especially in the New Testament. It's like, blessed are those that are persecuted. Like we are called to be bold. And if people don't like what we do in the name of Jesus, well, as long as we're doing it in a way in which we're trying to, glorify God and help others, that's okay. We need to be bold with our faith. And if you're not doing it in all walks of your life, you're withholding something, frankly, from yourself and true fulfillment and in a loving, joyful, happy relationship with God.
I love that, man. I've got to ask this question. I feel like money is on the minds of a lot of people in America right now because it's, inflation's up. Yeah, it's not the best economy we've ever been in. You're seeing headlines everywhere. Is there, for 2026 and beyond, like, what are some things that when you look out at the world, what are you optimistic about? It could be the hearts of people and things we're doing in Tithe Foundation. It could be through the work and the things that you see behind the scenes that a lot of people just don't get exposed to. What's giving you optimism?
Ooh. Okay. I mean, these are obviously somewhat editorial opinions, but I feel like America in general is becoming, seemingly has become more and more divided. You can consider it politically, social media I don't think has done us any kind of favors, but I'm feeling, and I don't know if you share this, I do feel really though over the last year or so, people are starting to they're acknowledging this more. They're getting a little bit sort of sick of it, that whatever camp that they put themselves into, well, that's not necessarily great either. It's almost like the whole world has just become competitive and they've become disenfranchised in whatever camp that they've decided upon. And they're seeming to now come back to some sort of a middle ground.
Yeah, they're tired of hating the other side.
Tired of hating the other side. Yeah. And it's not helpful for the other side and it's not helpful for themselves personally either. So I can't quantify this at all, but I'm starting to sense some sort of a I'm not necessarily saying that there's going to be peace in the world, but it does seem that people are starting to come back a little bit to some sort of an agreement and loving one another more. I mean, I can definitely speak to Central Ohio. Feels like something, you and I have talked about this a lot. And I don't think it's just because I'm more active in these communities. I truly do think it's real. And it's not just my own perception that that our community is just really becoming much more focused on God than they were before. I think about, I don't need to call specific attention to like football teams or anything, but like the sports, like if you watch professional sports, like 10, 15 years ago, I think it was a little bit unusual for an athlete to express that they have a relationship with God or that they love God. Now it's like commonplace.
It's like if you're not doing it, why aren't you doing it?
That's right. I think that's a really great thing.
Yeah.
And so that stuff doesn't go unnoticed to me. And so I don't know. Those are some of the things that I'm optimistic for. I feel like God is in some of the things that I'm doing. On a personal basis is like we support some missionaries that are operating in like China, for example. And so I get some stories out of that. A very difficult place to espouse the Christian message, but there's real headway being made there. Like West Africa, there's a lot of stuff going on there that I'm informed about too. And it's just like you can see God moving, not just in Central Ohio, but really throughout the earth. Like we're not going to have a perfect world here. I think we know that, but it does feel like there's still a lot of things to be optimistic about and a lot of good things still happening here on earth.
Well, if you've got some reasons, that's good, because there's not a lot of people I know that have as big of like a macro point of view, whether it's dealing with big numbers or whether it's doing diligence on nonprofits locally and like understanding what business people and business leaders are thinking about and involved in your local community too. I mean, you've got a different perspective. So I love that perspective. All right, last but not least, now I do want to go back to the pre-believer version of yourself.
Oh,
what would you tell your old self now? Because the competitiveness isn't going away. You're just as driven. You're just as focused on like achieving things and doing great things with your life, but your eternal focus has changed. What would you go back and tell the younger version of you if you could?
Yeah, I think I would say some sort of a combination of like arrogance and selfishness was probably my biggest issue if I was to highlight it. And I would sit down with my old self and say, you're not the end all be all here. There is something, you were created by something. I was analytical enough, I think, as a kid to say, if you would ask me, the Big Bang Theory, if we want to talk about evolution, now we're starting to go to such a big topic, but it's just like, I would have said, well, somebody had to ignite that. Something had to ignite that spark. Where did that come from? Where did the Big Bang initially start from? I think I would have certainly said, from that standpoint, I do believe in a creator. I believe in a God. And that God, young Matt, is who created you. Like, stop thinking that you are the end all be all. You're not. You have been created by somebody, something good that has good things in mind for you. Look how you've been gifted. You have a lot of talents. Like, use them for good instead of complete selfishness and hurting those other people around you. I would just encourage the younger me to really take a more others focused view instead of being so self-absorbed.
That's really good. Yeah, just stopping and acknowledging the fact that like we didn't create ourselves.
Yeah.
And whoever did probably loves us and has some sort of a point.
That's right.
To why he spent time on that.
Yeah. Why are we here? Like I would ask myself that, like, why are we here? And I don't think I would have had some smart answer. I would have been like, actually, I don't know if I would have known the answer to that question, but like the now version of myself could have told that version of self. I think he would have listened.
Yeah.
But nobody was, I wish somebody would. Actually, I'd like my story the way it is, but it's
I was going to say, we wouldn't be telling it right now if it had gone any other way.
That's true.
God clearly had a plan for it.
That's true.
Well, look, man, I'm glad he got your attention, because the fact that he did, not only did it change eternity for you, it changed the course of your family's life. It changed the course of my life from having you not only as a friend, but as a partner in these things that we're trying to do on behalf of the kingdom. And I think I don't think it's too far to say, I think it's changed the trajectory of our city and some of the impacts that's being made, the ripples that we won't even see until we get to heaven.
Praise God.
It's pretty cool. Well, I'm out of questions, but I could sit here and talk with you all day, but we
feel
don't
the
have time.
same.
The studio is going to kick us out.
We'll do it later.
Well, thank you for being here, man. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you like no other, and I know that the things that you're doing are really important to a lot of people around town. So.
Thanks, Mark. Love you too, brother.
This is going to be up on the site, so if you are interested in checking out more content, books, resources, the newsletter, you can go to markgreaves.com and you can find it all there. Thanks. Over and out. Thank you for watching the First in Focus show. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and then share with a friend.